are very few hacks in life which are potentially worth tens, if not hundreds of thousands. But if you're a long-term investor in the stock market, simply by reducing your investment fees can result in six-figure extra returns over the long term. This video will explain my strategy for reducing investment fees down to near zero, down to as little as 0.03%. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's George, and when I first started to learn about investing, I was always told that it was really important to keep the fees associated with my investments as low as possible. Now, this made sense. It seemed pretty obvious that anyone should look to reduce their costs as much as possible, but it wasn't until I started to really look at some examples and dig into the numbers that I realised just how important it was. And after seeing just how much difference reducing your investment fees can make over the long term, I then did a lot of research to find the best ways to reduce these fees as much as possible, and I've developed a strategy to invest in the stock market at near zero cost. Now, just me saying how important it is to reduce these fees is all well and good, but let me show you with an example. So what you can see on screen is an investment calculator, and you may have played around with one of these before, but essentially what it does is it calculates total investment returns over time, given a starting amount, a monthly contribution, and an average rate of return. So for example, if we take a $10,000 starting amount, a $250 monthly contribution, and assume a 7.5% average return over a period of 40 years, this will result in a total return of just over $885,000. Which is really good and definitely a healthy amount to retire on. But now let's say that this investment comes with a decent sized fee. And if you were to incorporate my strategy, you could reduce this fee by 0.5% per year. So instead of netting a 7.5% average return, you can now net an 8% average return. So if we plug this 8% into the calculator, rather than the 7.5% we had before, our total returns now jumps to over $1 million, and we're netting around 150,000 more over this 40-year period. Now, when I first saw this, I was really quite surprised. You know, 150,000 is a hell of a lot of money, and that could mean retiring years before you would have before. Now, all this can be done by reducing investment fees by just 0.5% per year, which is very doable if you follow this strategy. Now, if you're invested in the stock market using investment funds, whether index funds or actively managed funds, you may be paying a fee on three separate occasions. Firstly, you'll probably be paying an annual account fee, which is usually taken as a percentage of your overall account balance, paid directly to your investment provider that you're using. Now, all of the large providers usually charge this fee. For example, if you use Vanguard, you'll be paying a 0.15% annual account fee. And if you use AJ Bell, for example, this is 0.25%. And the second fee you'll be paying is an ongoing charge fee, or OCF fee. Now, this is essentially the annual charge of the investment fund that you're invested in, and it will vary from product to product. Now, for some index investment funds, this can be 0.1% per year, or even lower in some cases. Or for actively managed funds, this can be up to 1% or even above 1% in some cases. And the third fee you might be paying is when you initially invest in these investment funds, or when you come to sell the investment funds. Now, this is less common nowadays, but it can still exist as a flat fee or a percentage of your investment. So the strategy is very simple. We just have to reduce these three fees as much as possible. Now, to go through them one by one, the first fee, the account fee, can be completely wiped out entirely, as luckily for us in the modern day, there are online investment platforms which have absolutely no account fee. Now, if you're in the UK, the two most prominent at the time of writing are Trading 212 and Invest Engine, and both offer zero account fees. Now, as long as you're invested in funds which are quoted in your home currency, so if you're in the UK, if they're listed in pounds, then you won't be paying any fees when you initially invest either. Okay, so now we found a platform with zero account fees. The next piece of the puzzle is to find an investment fund with the lowest fees possible. Now, all investment funds will have some sort of fee associated with them. There are no free ones on the market, but as you might know, index funds typically tend to be a lot cheaper than actively managed funds. Now, for those unaware, an actively managed investment fund is essentially a basket full of different stocks and shares and other things like commodities and bonds as well, which is actively managed, meaning that there's an investment manager and a team of analysts which decides which things go into this basket. And this is based on their research and their forecasts and projections about how these different things are going to perform over time. Now, this is expensive as these people need to be paid, and they often demand very high salaries, and this is paid for by a higher OCF fee. However, index funds, on the other hand, don't have this team of analysts that they have to pay for. It's simply a list of companies. For example, the S&P 500 is just the 500 largest companies in America, and that's what goes into the basket. And all it takes is a computer system to update this periodically as companies come on and off this list. And in actual fact, many research papers and studies have been done on the difference between actively managed funds and index funds. And over time, a lot of these index funds actually outperform these actively managed funds. So the extra fee you have to pay for the actively managed funds oftentimes isn't worth the money at all. You know, famous investors like Warren Buffett always say that you don't need to bother with actively managed funds, just go with index funds because of the savings on fees you can get. So clearly for our strategy, we're going to look towards index funds to reduce the fees as much as possible. But there are many index funds on the market, so which ones are the best to go for and which ones have the lowest fees? Well, if we're looking to reduce the fee we pay as a whole, we need to look towards Trading 212 and Invest Engine and see what funds they have on offer, as those are the platforms which have zero account fee associated with them. Now, luckily for us, these two platforms have a wide range of choice and offer lots and lots of index funds. And the absolute cheapest one on the market at the moment is one called SDPR S&P 500, which is offered by Invest Engine, which is an S&P 500 index fund, i.e. it contains the top 500 companies in America. And you can get this for just 0.03% ongoing charge fee, which is super low. And if you're looking for a global index fund, i.e. it contains the largest companies, across the world, then Invest Engine offer a fund called LNG Global Equity, which comes in at 0.1% OCF fee, which is still really good. But these are just two I've picked out, and these platforms have a wide range of choice, so be sure to go and have a look for yourselves, and aim for funds which have an OCF fee of 0.1% or lower. Now, I've actually made a whole video where I discuss the best investment funds on the market at the moment. So if you're after a more in-depth guide, then go and have a look at that video. But if you're after, say, just investing in the S&P 500, I'd recommend this SDPR fund with Invest Engine, as its fees are just 0.03% per year. Okay, so let's pull this all together with an example. So let's say you have some money invested with Hargreaves Lansdown, which is an investment provider here in the UK, and you're invested in one of their ready-made portfolios, which is essentially an actively managed investment fund. Now, the fees associated are on screen now. As we can say, there's a 0.45% annual account fee, which goes straight to Hargreaves Lansdown, and there's a 0.91% ongoing charge fee, or fund management fee, as it's shown here, totaling a 1.36% annual fee. So now let's say you follow my strategy and switch away from Hargreaves Lansdown to Invest Engine and then go for the SDPR fund at 0.03%. Now, you've instantly saved the 0.45% annual account fee, as Invest Engine doesn't have an annual account fee, and you're also saving 0.88% on your fund, as you've gone from a fund that costs 0.91% per year to 0.03% per year. So this is a total annual saving of 1.33%. Now, as we saw from the investment calculator earlier on, just saving 0.5% per year can result in massive extra returns over time. So if we take the same parameters from earlier, that's $10,000 starting amount, $250 a month over a 40-year period. If we have this with Hargreaves Lansdown in their ready-made fund, this will result in around £700,000 over time. And then if we switch to Invest Engine in their low-cost fund, this will result in over £1 million total return. Just simply by reducing these fees, we've made $300,000 extra over 40 years. Now, that's assuming that the returns are the same. So if you've made it this far into the video, you might find value where I discuss Vanguard's fee change, which comes into force on the 28th of February 2025. Links on screen now. And hopefully you found this video useful. And if you have, you might want to consider subscribing to the channel, as we've got lots more on the topics of personal finance and investing, and lots more in the works to come. And if you have any questions, please leave me a comment below. I'll be sure to get to them all. Thanks for watching.